Morena e te iwino mai hoki mai ki tō tātou hōtaka ko Marae ko Miria makamoa hau. I te noa nā he pito mata. From the withered tree a flower blooms. This is a whakatauki reminding us that even in tough times there's always potential for new growth and renewal. And presumably that notion underpinned the growth or no BS budget Finance Minister Nicola Willis unveiled this week. But what growth is there for Māori? While the Finance Minister says over $700 million has been committed to initiatives supporting Māori outcomes, critics say the number is closer to $38 million. It's been described as bleak, shameful. And the year nā budget, over $750 million, they say, has been cut from Māori-focused funding, and that the government found much of its savings from $12.8 billion after its urgent pre-budget pay equity changes, along with cuts to the Māori Development Fund, $20 million over 4 years, dropping from $45 to $40 million in year one. There's no new targeted Māori health funding, though Māori Development Minister Tamapōtaka points to 12-month instead of 3-month prescriptions as one example of how Māori will benefit. The government denies the budget doesn't serve Māori. The Finance Minister saying there are a range of initiatives in this budget that will support Māori to thrive. All this in the week that the Regulatory Standards Bill passed its first reading. Well, joining me to unpack what all this means is Jackie Harema, CEO of Hāpai Te Hauora, Mahera Maihi, founder of Mā Te Huruhuru, which supports at-risk youth in South Auckland and board member of Manaaki Rangatahi. And we have Professor Jason Mika from the University of Auckland, whose mahi focuses on business and the Māori economy. Tēnā koutou. Lovely to have you all here I tēnei ata ngā mihi nui. So let's look at the bright sparks. Are there any bright sparks in this budget, Jackie?
Really trying to find some bright sparks in this budget. I think for Māori Wardens and our Māori Women's Welfare League, maybe some. They've been underfunded, so it's hard to call it a bright spark. So in terms of health, I'm really struggling to find where some bright lights are amongst this budget.
What about for you, Mahera? You support the government's $190 million social investment fund. It was announced pre-budget, but you still have some concerns.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at this budget. I don't think anyone at this table or even anyone watching at home are surprised by this budget. It's very damning. I think that in times of crisis, what we do see is our people band together and stand together. We're going to see a rise of our people come together, and I think at the next election, we're going to see different flags flying.
So the bright spark might not sit in the budget, but it sits in the reaction to the budget.
It sits in kotahitanga of our people. We saw it in 2004 when Tariana Turia crossed the floor. We saw the rise of the Māori Party. We saw it again in 2024 with Toitū Te Tiriti movement, and that scrapped the Principles Treaty Bill.
What about for you, Jason? Any bright sparks?
Well, I guess the budget is meant to be about economic growth, and I guess if there's a glimmer of hope, it's around Māori economic growth, because the Māori economy is doing very well. And in fact, if we're to look for our potential and our growth as an economy for Aotearoa, we should look to the Māori economy, and we should find ways to support it and enable it and accelerate for the benefit of all of us.
Well, so the government has included a $6.6 billion tax incentive for businesses to boost investment. Is that good for Māori?
It is. Every dollar helps, but it's depreciation, and it's going to encourage businesses to invest in equipment and materials that they're going to need for business growth. However, if you look at, what drives innovation, what drives business success, it's innovation, it's people. And from this budget, what I can see is, we're missing the key elements of an economy, which is the environment and our people. Are we investing in our people and the environment? Because that's what the economy depends on. Depreciation helps, yes. Accounting rules and changes to taxation are all helpful. But if you want to transform the economy, those sorts of investments are really sort of are needed around innovation, people and environment.
So the government's missed the point in highlighting, I guess, the benefits of the Māori economy and what it can do to boost it.
Missed an opportunity. The Māori economy is kind of unseen. It's an afterthought, and yet it's the most highly performing sector of our economy. And so why aren't we making a big fuss over it? And why isn't the Crown and the government finding ways to partner with Māori?
Why aren't we?
Yeah, good question.
What's your answer?
Well, my answer is that I guess anything Māori these days is kind of like, well, it's not flavour of the month, it's not like, we don't want to go there, but we have to if we're to improve the economy and the well-being of all of our people.
I mean, it's 126 billion on the line, isn't there? One of the things that the government wants to do is make life easier for mortgage owners, 300 better off every fortnight. Of course, Māori home ownership is down from 31 to 27% over 10 years. And that's compared to 66% of New Zealanders who own their own homes. So does that help Māori?
I mean, home ownership is a key way for Māori entrepreneurs to finance their first businesses. Their home ownership is a really key part of that. The 20, ownership in the 20% range is not really helpful. So we need to improve Māori home ownership rates, and we're not seeing that. We're seeing cuts to opportunities for Māori housing.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, Mahira. The biggest hit to housing for Māori, that's taken the biggest hit. So there's a flexible fund. Some say that this combines a tangle of policies that existed and streamlines it. And the government's saying that there are opportunities for credible Māori providers. Do you see those opportunities in this budget?
No, I don't. I don't see that for Māori. I think that this government is really forcing our young people into desperate situations. We've also seen with the sanctions, there are more, but our young people are already seeing orange lights. We've got an increase in youth homelessness. We've got an increase in youth who are unemployed, leaving our kaumātua and kuia to work till they're 70 years old. And what we really need to do is hold space for rangatahi. We need to value them. We need to see them. We need to bring them to the table. We need co-creation, co-design, co-construction. We need to hear their voices, because our rangatahi, they are so intelligent, so smart, so clever, and they really are an exciting generation. We need to have them at the table, not just ticking boxes, but really meaningful discussions with them. We need to bring them in. I wish I had some that I could bring with me today. Unfortunately, it's just me and B. But yeah.
You're one.
Yeah. Oh, kia ora.
Well, and it's a worry because you say, there's been a 53% increase in homelessness in Tāmaki Makaurau just in 5 months.
Yeah, Auckland Council have noticed an increase in homelessness by 53%. We have noticed in our stats that young people are being turned away from emergency housing. The criteria is so much harder, and that pushes young people out into streets. We've seen them in streets, in their cars, under trees. It's really, it's a crisis. We are in a housing crisis, and we need the Minister and the Prime Minister to know this.
So the budget is a choice, and that choice is clear, you say, Jackie. What's the choice they've made?
Yeah, the choice is clearly that they're willing to back corporates over community. They're willing to back wealth over whānau. They're not looking at any preventative measures that we need. Health is about prevention. We all know that Māori die 7 years earlier than non-Māori, 2 to 3 times more likely to die from preventable diseases. So the choice that they've made is clearly they're happy with what's happening currently to us, and in fact, they're going to fund it more. So really disappointing and disheartening, this budget for our people, and where we're going to be heading to in the future.
So much of the Māori funding that existed has been mainstreamed, really. Does that feel like to you that the Buy Māori for Māori idea is over?
Definitely. With the disestablishment of Te Aka Whai Ora, they talked about localised solutions. We haven't seen any plan of that. By putting us to a one-size-fits-all approach, it really takes away the discussion around need and inequity. So they talk about need, but what that does, it discourages a conversation around what created the need. Why are we in a position that we are now? So, but I'm really heartened by everything that these two are saying, because we have our own solutions. Our people on the ground are our own solutions, and there was no acknowledgement that of funding that's required to, really bolster up what's happening on the ground. Transformation best happens when our people lead our own solutions. You talked about co-design. I think it's co-devolution. Don't worry about the design. We need to devolve resources, because our people know what they're doing. And they've clearly proven it. This government talks about evidence. We've seen the evidence. We've got the evidence. So, our people are our own solutions.
Aye. I want to get your guys' thoughts on the budget, which invests $480 million to support police, $472 million to ensure corrections can manage the projected increase in the prison population. My heart sinks as I read that, planning for failure. All for karo, Jason. What do you think of this investment?
Well, I mean, that kind of investment is just preserving the status quo. There's nothing new in there about how to change people's lives and realise people's potential. And that's what's missing from all of that investment. If that investment was channeled into the rangatahi that Mahir is talking about, we'd see change. We'd see positive change. And that's not evident in this budget.
And that's the worry, isn't it? We've got an increase in homelessness. A lot of these young ones are vulnerable and could end up being stats in this investment.
Yeah, but we don't even know about the stats either because there's no data, there's no research, and that's one of the call to actions from Manaaki Rangatahi is that we need the ministers to invest in a youth strategic plan to end youth homelessness. We need the data. We need them to invite us to the tables. We are the experts on the matter. We have so many great solutions. We're already doing things anyway, and we just need the opportunity to sit there and talk with them.
What do you want to see happen? What's key from now, Jackie?
We have to really focus on prevention. Like, this is a budget around crisis. You're either moving into an emergency department, you're moving into a cell, unfortunately. They're bolstering up police and infrastructure there. So really investment into prevention, preventing what's the bad statistics that we already see. So our providers on the ground, Māori, iwi, whānau water providers, they just all have all the solutions. So why wouldn't we be investing more in our own solutions to fix our own issues, to address our own issues? So really need some more Patea into prevention.
Yeah. I want to mihi to you all for your whakaaro this morning, but also for your frontline mahi. And acknowledge that it is mahi ua, and we're very grateful for the mahi that you do. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Fast-track legislation has returned the likelihood of seabed mining off the shores of South Taranaki, promising economic benefits for the region and the government. But at what cost? Leigh-Marama McLachlan travelled to Patea to meet with local iwi.
The rugged waves of the South Taranaki coast with its rich black sand. For more than a decade, local iwi have been fighting to stop a major corporation keen to mine the seabed. And the stakes have just got higher.
Tēnā hoha mātai, not to be kind of that te wakarongo. It feels we're always in battle.
Ko te moana te aronga nui ko nei te marae o Waioturi. Kia ora!
Hera, e mai haere mai.
Koe nei te ipu kārea o Ngāpuhi nui.
Like all the kids in Patea, we all brought up in the beach was our place to go to, whether it was swimming or fishing along the awa. A lot of contact with the water.
Barty fears the moana is under imminent threat. The Australian-owned company Trans-Tasman Resources wants to set up an operation out at sea to mine the iron sands.
Well, it's concerned like everybody else is what's going to happen to our kai out there. It's very important to us as the mana whenua, kai te ake o te awa me ngā moana.
And it's been a long slog. It all started back in 2013 when the first application to mine was made. Back then, Debbie Ngārewa was the head of Ngāti Ruanui.
There's lots of languages that can be used to describe what Trans-Tasman Resources was proposing to do, but effectively what it's looking to do is to mine up our papamoana, to take out the mineral that they can sell, and then put 49 million tonnes of sludge into our moana for 35 years, up and down to Taihawaru coast. So it was pretty easy to know that we would never support that in our living lives and even our next lives.
This is a virtual representation of what is proposed, 22 k's out at sea. Trans-Tasman will use a crawler device like this to dredge 50 million tonnes of iron sands from the seabed, mining an area the size of 9,000 rugby fields. Once they take out the metal they want, the remaining material will be returned to the sea.
That impact of the dumping, what does that cause? You know, that's our pātaka. Where's our pātaka going to go? Is it going to survive? We don't know. They don't know.
He nui ngā kōrero o mua mo te taone o Patea. Uri here worried that seabed mining will harm the environment, including rare marine life like Maui dolphins and blue pygmy whales. Rachel says the iwi have spent thousands of dollars fighting this in the courts.
So it actually all started in 2013 when they lodged their first application. And obviously we went through the Court of Appeal, we've been through Supreme Court, we've been to the High Court, and we've won all those cases in the last 10 years. The momai and the trauma and winning those cases is an awesome win for iwi, for the community, to ensure our takiwā is not touched by TTR. But not only that, it's also rewarding to know that our opinions matter.
But then a change of government and a change of rules. In 2024, TTR's application was added to the new fast-track legislation, putting it back on the table.
Got to the koti teitei, and then ko mātou te iwi toa mo tērā. And then next minute they're coming back, challenged to wero.
When you won your case in the Supreme Court, did you think it was over at that point?
Yes, we thought that would be the end of it. And then didn't help with the change of government. So once they got the change of government, well, this is where we are now, around that fast tracking everything. Especially when it comes to our seabed. That's the worst one for us, that we don't want to happen. And we'll fight, we need to prepare ourselves.
Last week, TTR's application cleared its first hurdle through the fast-track process. An expert panel is set to consider it and make the decision.
You know, it's our moana. We have to protect that. So it's really, really a shame that the fast-tracking bill that the government has put in place has allowed TTR to come back at us. They should be considering the last 3 cases that we won.
And, again, that's a back door that's been opened, where politicians have opened a back door and allowed a political channel for an activity that no courts would support.
Heoi he tirohanga anō tō Shane Jones te minita o ngā rauemi.
Many of the decisions that have been made about the seabed mining case basically just delayed this day. This day will pit the emotional concerns of the seabed against science and technology. Look, I've got to remind everyone, this coast seabed has already been studied, including by NIWA. There is nothing particularly extraordinary about it. It is bog standard seabed that represents a chance for the region to generate jobs and make money. And to suggest that somehow it's got some biblical significance is a distortion of the facts.
Trans-Tasman says it has proposed a set of conditions to protect the marine environment, reefs, kaimoana and marine mammals. It says independent experts believe their plans will ensure the project avoids material harm to the environment. It believes the project will be transformative and deliver jobs and growth for the people in the Taranaki region. And the minister agrees.
Some of the poorest whānau in New Zealand are the Māori whānau of Taranaki. With the disappearance of oil and gas, with the restrictions around dairy, with the slow recovery of tourism, Taranaki whānau need a new horizon of economic opportunity. And we should trust the science and technology and the quality of the professional judgment of the panel. $1 billion worth of export receipts, $250 million of earnings for the Crown, 70 million of that may very well be made available through shared royalties to Taranaki.
Why would you turn down that level of investment?
Because of the impacts to our environment, to our, we're still kaitiaki. We have to ensure that it's here for our future generations. But there's other things that benefit them, which is like, you know, the wind farms. There's things on the horizon that would impact them much better and have less impact on the environment.
Ka hui hui a Ngāti Rua Nui I te rā wiki, I runga no I te oati, e kore mutu te papai.
Worst case scenario, we're not going to back down. We won't back down. We have to have some hope. And I honestly believe that's where we're going to go. There's also protesting. We could be out there in boats. We could block them. We will be doing 110% of anything we can do, we will do. No matter what. That's what it means to our people. That's what it means to our uri.
This whole journey has been about whakapapa and protecting whakapapa. Our moana isn't a economic body. It is a living taonga that we were raised and understand is part of us, and we're part of our moana and our whakapapa.
Hai ke hai te moana. Ai.
She's not just doing the stunts, she's building the system. He uri no Ngāpuhi and award-winning stuntwoman Dayna Pomare Pai has featured in some of Hollywood's biggest films, but it's the work she's doing at home that's shaping the future of the industry. Te Rauhiringa Brown has more.
Out here in the Hunua Ranges, Aotearoa's very own Wild West.
Pick it up. We call it Sky High Ranch. Everyone who comes here says it feels like therapy.
This is where you'll find one of the world's top stunt women, Dayna Pomare Pai.
I didn't really know about stunt work. I was asked to come in and audition, and because I was so active, I was, horse rider, dancer, gymnast. I did all these things that you'd be great. Give this a go.
So your transition into stunt work was somebody just came up to you and said, hey, would you like to audition for this role? What was that role?
That was Zena back in the day.
That was Zena?
Yeah.
And you got the role?
And got the role, yeah.
And that was just the beginning. More than 30 years on, she's doubled for some of the biggest names in Hollywood. Charlize Theron in Mad Max Fury Road, and Snow White in The Huntsman, Gal Gadot in Wonder Woman. The credits are long, but before she mastered stunts, she mastered horses.
Before I could walk or talk, my dad used to tie me to the saddle. I was only just sitting up, and we'd do 6-week cattle drives and stuff like that, and he worked a big station. He'd tie me to the saddle, and I was happy on the horse. We'd go off, and I'd fall asleep on there. I felt more comfortable on horseback. If I was crying, he'd put me on a horse, straight away stop crying. Happy as, go to sleep. So, yeah, that was where from my dad. Right done. Horses has been my thing from day one. I'll go and do stunts and I'll come back, and my thing was getting back to the horses.
And here at Sky High Ranch, stunt performers, coaches and horses all train together.
Liam, you and PK, you match up, okay? Back on the shirts as you fly, yeah? That's it. Come out.
This is where Dayna merges her love for stunts and horses and passes on mātauranga. Took her around the world.
We've just done 3 days of Roman riding and saddle falls and swords and all sorts of things, all horse-related stuff. And then today we're just bringing in some of the New Zealand stunt school students and getting them around the horses, getting them around so when films come up, even though they're not the riders, some of them, they get used to being around the horses on foot, getting used to bulldogging and all that sort of stuff where they can pull the other people off.
There's some of us here that are new to this. Like myself, at first, I didn't know stunts was a thing. Gave it a go and it was like, oh, it's just like play fighting. But that's what I love about this kind of mai, the environment, these kind of people. She's awesome. She has all this knowledge that it's like, I want to learn. I'm sure everybody else feels the same too. And yeah, she's kei runga noa atu.
We have people that come from overseas. We've got quite a few people from like the Czech Republic, and they fly from everywhere.
She doesn't just teach it, she helped build it. In 2010, she founded the New Zealand Stunt School. Then came the NZ Action Talent Agency, a space to represent homegrown talent for international projects.
When we're training them up and then kind of going, well, they're so good, how do we get them work? Okay, so I was like, okay, I started putting them forward for work and everything, and then that's when I start bringing in somebody else to help run the agency, and then they can get work from what they've been training, just to keep that pathway going. And so it doesn't just stop. Yeah. It shouldn't ever just stop, it should keep going.
And in 2020, she brought her two worlds together, launching the NZ Horse Team, where her love for horses and stunt work finally became one.
We've actually been really busy. Like, we've just finished a 6-month job. We had 74 horses on that job over the 6 months, a whole big horse team, wranglers, so everybody was really, really busy. And then there's other horse jobs coming this year, and we had heaps last year, come from commercials to Netflix shows to, heaps of different ones.
But just as her vision was coming to life, in 2021, everything stopped. Dayna suffered a serious brain injury on set. It was a brutal reminder of what stunt performers risk every day, and a lesson she now carries with her.
Every time something happens, I can pass that on, what not to do. But even the stuff like the brain injury, I'd spend days in an oxygen therapy, a hyperbaric oxygen therapy chamber, and I learnt to meditate, which I never thought somebody with ADHD be able to do. I didn't think I could teach myself to meditate. I didn't think it was even possible. But I was put into a state where I had to learn how to meditate, and that has now helped me out in life. Yeah, that's the one. Get it.
Now she's turning that experience into impact, using everything she's learned to help those who need it most.
Who are you being?
Peter Pan.
Peter Pan.
We'll have the second part of Dayna's story for you, Te Rawiki. Koina, ko marae tērā I tēnei ata rather. As we close, we acknowledge our activators and advocates who prove the saying, he mana ko, te kaura, e kore ai, we must act, not wish for change. Hei te Rawiki, e te whānau Māori ora. Ko te reo, te take.